Hi, Nat Doig here. On this second anniversary special edition of Weird in the Wade, there are live recordings of a ghost hunt throughout. So do expect a very spooky episode. Hello and welcome to Weird in the Wade, a podcast about all that's weird, wonderful, and a little off kilter in the town of Biggleswade in Bedfordshire. Whether it's tales of ghosts or flying saucer hoaxes, the big cat of Biggleswade, welcome to Weird in the Wade. Here we go. 10:15. Attic. So, high EMF reading. Over 200. I don't really understand what that means for a measurement. Electric. Up to 20. Magnetic. Ceiling. Now it's just not switching off. And click heard behind right ear. Did anybody just hear that click? Very loud. Okay, it wasn't just me then. Right behind me, it was just like real, like almost someone clicking their fingers. Welcome to Weird in the Wade. This is a really special episode. We're on location in the former Haunted Poundstretcher in Biggleswade. It is now a gym and coffee shop which has recently been refurbished. So we thought, what better time to come in here and explore and carry out some ghost hunts. We are here on a evening going right through until 2 a.m. We will be recording at the witching hour of 12 midnight and holding ghost hunts in the attic, the cellar, and one of the sites that had a lot of activity when it was the Poundstretcher. I'm joined with me tonight on this ghost hunt by Paul Day, who you'll remember from the Blind George of Anstey episode. Paul, what are you feeling about being on a ghost hunt tonight?
Well, it's something very, very new. I've never done anything like this before. And, really looking forward to it. And hopefully we'll get to feel, I won't get to see anything, but I'll certainly hope to feel something.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I've also got with me Lucy and Liv, who are from the BBC, who are helping with recording tonight. How are you feeling about it, Lucy?
I'm excited.
Good.
We never know what we're going to find.
And Liv, how are you feeling about it?
A bit scared, but excited as well.
Brilliant. So we really hope to bring you in this episode some really exciting recordings from our ghost hunts. We're going to have a tour of the building. We're going to interview some staff who have had experiences here. And we don't know yet what is going to happen. Also on this episode, I'll be delving deeper into the history of this building and what it was before it was the Poundstretcher. And I'm also going to be investigating some tragic deaths which sadly weren't uncommon during the late Victorian and early 20th century. And one of those deaths might hold a clue to who Aggie is, the ghost who's said to haunt this Poundstretcher, or now coffee shop and gym. So stay tuned and you will find out soon what happens on this ghost hunt. The Haunted Poundstretcher was my first ever podcast episode, released back in May 2023. If you've listened, I'm sure you'll remember what happens, but for anyone who hasn't, here's a short recap. We're at the west end of Biggleswade High Street, where it starts. What you won't see now is the Poundstretcher. That closed down in 2017. But if we went back in time just 8 years to 2015, the NatWest Bank would still be open, its ATM still pumping out money, and next to it, before you reached the hairdressers, you'd see the orange and yellow sign for the Poundstretchers. I liked shopping there, the staff were helpful and friendly, but it did have a wee bit of an odd atmosphere, which I'm sure can be explained. What is harder to explain are the experiences of the staff who worked there. I first came across their experiences in a local Facebook page in 2015. In fact, over the years, when anyone has posted about paranormal experiences or stories on that group, the Poundstretcher gets a shout out. So I decided to reach out to these ex-employees by posting a request for information on the same group, and boy did the information come. In the first 5 days, that post received 65 comments. It was always freezing cold in the shop. The attic was the worst area. Items would fly off the shelves in broad daylight and in front of other witnesses. Becky, who worked in Poundstretchers, says that she saw the ghost of a young girl on the back stairs of the shop. And she's not the only one in her family who claims to have seen the apparition. Becky's uncle, who worked in the building years before when it was a furniture shop, also saw the ghost of a young girl there, just like she did. I think it was during the time of the furniture shop that the ghost was given her name of Aggie. So far, and my search is not exhausted yet, but so far I have found no evidence of any Agneses or Aggies living at that end of the high street, or the other for that matter. Hopefully what this story will have shown is that nothing is ever as it seems. A Poundstretcher on one hand was an Aladdin's cave of bargains with modern lighting, a grubby carpet and fairly drab decor. But it was also an old building with history dating back at least 150, possibly 200 years, built on top of an even older building that was burnt to the ground in a terrible fire. Even the mundane can sit within a rich historical context. I actually want to begin the story today outside the building which used to house the Poundstretcher. After the phenomenal interest in the Haunted Poundstretcher story and the others that I've told on Weird in the Wade, I was invited to write a dramatic ghost walk, which Biggleswade Arts and Theatre Society performed back in February 2025. I want to begin this story with 2 listeners who attended one of those ghost walks. I wonder if this is Alison. Hi, is that Alison? Thank you for coming so much. It's lovely to meet you. And this is because Alison and Darren, along with their family, witnessed something uncanny whilst on that ghost walk outside the old Poundstretcher building. And they kindly agreed to come back to the same spot to tell me their story.
So we were standing right where we are now. There was a couple of actors standing in front of us and we were facing the Poundstretcher, and the building next to it had 2 lights on like it has now in the rooms upstairs, and there was a woman moving around in those 2 rooms, and the actors carried on talking, and I looked to the window in the middle with the lights out, and there was a white figure there wearing a nightie. You couldn't really see a face. The whole of the image was white, and I kept looking from there to the actor and back again, and it was still there, and it wasn't moving at all, not at all. And it must have been about a minute and a half, and I thought, that's odd. Is that a person? Because I really wasn't sure if it was a person or not. And then after about a minute and a half, it just disappeared. I didn't see it go.
No.
It was there and it had gone. And I didn't say anything to Alison because I'm a complete sceptic.
Yeah.
And it was a few days later, I just sort of mentioned, you know, when we did the ghost walk, I saw this strange figure in this window. And then Alison mentioned it to Jack and Laura, because they came on the ghost walk with us, and Jack said, I saw it as well.
And what did you think it was at the time?
I thought it was probably a person,
Yeah.
but I thought, why would you be wearing a nightie at like 7 in the evening and to stand there that long and not move at all?
Yeah.
And even though it's the room's dark, I would have expected to see sort of a face on it, but there was no face.
Did you think it was part of the ghost walk?
We thought it might have been. Alison contacted them and asked, and they said no, we hadn't planned anything.
Yeah, I messaged them on their Facebook page, and straight away they said no, it wasn't part of our show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so upset I hadn't seen it because I'm a full team believer.
Yeah. So I can't explain it. I'm a total sceptic. I can't explain what it was. It does feel a bit creepy being back here, actually. I'm kind of expecting to see a figure there any minute.
This is my first ever ghost hunt, and I wanted to get some insight from someone much more experienced than me. So I asked Dr Ciarán O'Keefe, resident sceptic on Uncanny and previously Most Haunted, for his advice. Ciarán is a parapsychologist with decades of experience attending ghost hunts. Here's the message Ciarán sent me about ghost hunting.
Hello Natalie, this is Dr Ciarán O'Keefe, parapsychologist and self-professed ghost hunter. I understand you are after some tips for ghost hunting. Well, let me break it down into what I think are the best 5 tips for ghost hunting. Number 1, stay calm. Very, very difficult to do, especially when ghost hunters are in the dark and where there's an expectation that something ghostly is going on and that potentially something could jump out of the shadows at you. However, if you don't stay calm, the anxiety and the fear could play havoc with your perception, your visual and your auditory perception, and make you misinterpret things that are otherwise mundane. The second tip would be to record everything. Even just a notepad and pen is a very useful gadget to have when you're ghost hunting. The time when maybe the temperature changes or you feel that the temperature changes, the time when you hear something. The third tip, I would say, is to do research. Why are you ghost hunting at a particular location? This is key because I've been in situations where ghost hunters have shown me hundreds and hundreds of photos taken of a particular corridor in a well-known haunted castle, to then say the reason we took these is because people have reported hearing odd sounds in the corridor. If people have reported hearing odd sounds, what's the point in taking photographs? Try and capture the audio, surely. Tip number 4, try and get a good night's sleep the night before you go. As ghost hunters, and I'm guilty of this myself, we are too often in a position where we start to feel tired late at night, especially around that 2 o'clock mark, and we therefore jump to caffeine or energy drinks to try and keep us awake. I always take very high percentage dark chocolate as well, because that's less kind of effect on your physiology, but it can help give you a little bit of an energy boost exactly when you need it. And the last tip is have fun. You know, a lot of people think of me as a skeptical parapsychologist, the party pooper, the villain, if you will, that is always being very cynical and debunking of ghostly experiences. But the reality is, I love ghost hunting. I think it could be very addictive. Simply enjoy it. Those experiences that form the basis of why you're doing the investigation will often come from people who have been visiting a location. They probably weren't ghost hunters, so by enjoying yourself, by even having a laugh with other people, even reading a book, doing things that are potentially not ghost hunting for a period of time during your ghost hunt, can put you into a similar frame of mind as those people who originally had those experiences. But ultimately, have a great time. Have a spooky time. Bye-bye.
So in front of me, I've got the kit that I'm using today on our ghost hunt at the old Poundstretcher. Now, some of this kit is quite fancy and some of it is really, really basic. I've got a thermal imaging camera incredibly fancy. You really don't need one of these. You could just use a thermometer if you want to take the temperature of the place that you're ghost hunting. But on the other extreme, I've got something really, really basic and cheap, a little cat's toy. I stole this from my beautiful little tubby tabby Kasumi. Basically what you do with this is if you leave it and if it starts moving by itself, well, you'll have to investigate what's making that happen. I've also got, for a similar reason, some bells. We can tie these up in various places and hear if they make a noise. I've got a UV torch, which ghost hunters use because they believe it can show spirits and ghosts. I've also got a very simple notebook. Every ghost hunter needs one to take down your observations. Another piece of kit I've got with me today is this EMF reader. It reads electric and magnetic fields, and that can help you identify any sort of anomalies in the place that you're ghost hunting. Last but not least, a hip flask of whiskey for medicinal purposes only. And don't forget the snacks. We did the ghost hunts in 3 different areas of the building, beginning in the same way each time. I'm going to do 2 things before we start each of the sort of separate ghost hunts in the areas, different areas of the building. I'm going to, first of all, ask permission to be here to explain what we're doing, so that if there are other beings or spirits, I don't know, I'm not team believer, I'm not team skeptic, I really am team I'm not sure, I don't know. But if there are such things, I just want them to understand why we're here. We're curious, we're friendly, we're open-minded, we're just here to see if we can find out who you are, what you are. If Aggie is here, as people have called you. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I am going to ask for protection, that if there are any helpful and protective energies, that they surround us and protect us while we're on this ghost hunt. The spirits of the north and earth, the east and air, the south and fire, the west and water to protect to keep us safe whilst we are on this voyage of discovery. I don't know what we would call it. And the lights went out. The first ghost hunt we did took place in the cosy cafe area at the front of the building, facing the high street. We are in the upstairs of the cafe, near to the window which for a long period of time was boarded up by the Poundstretcher. Staff reported that that window would open and close by itself, and they were actually really worried there'd be an accident. This area where we're sitting was the office, and some of the most dramatic incidents happened in this area. There was one time when a visiting manager, a regional manager, was in this office and couldn't get out. They were desperately trying to open the door, and they thought somebody was playing a prank on them, that they'd locked the door from the other side, and they were banging on the door and trying to get out and rattling the handle. And then suddenly, as if it was just let go, they came flying out of the room, and nobody had been holding the door. The door hadn't been locked. No one was playing a trick on them. But now it's a really lovely cosy corner with a settee and comfy chairs in the cafe. The window is no longer boarded up. At the minute, we're sitting here in the dark, and then we've got light coming through the windows from the street. I'm going to knock Aggie, and if you can make a sound in response, that would be amazing. I'm going to use some of the equipment I've got with me. So first of all, I'm going to try the electromagnetic field recorder. not picking up a lot, although we've still got that weird magnetism in this area. There's something magnetic around here. Maybe there's some magnets in the settee or something. And I'm going to try the thermal imaging camera. So the thermal camera, just to explain what it is, it shows the temperature of your surroundings, and it gives you the temperature for the surroundings. Paul, you're showing up. Your face is very red and white with a yellow nose. So your nose is slightly cooler than the rest of your body. So it is looking a lot cooler up here now. Although it's still 20 degrees. I'm not really seeing any sort of difference in temperature. I will switch that off. My one last tool is not the whiskey. Done with it now, there it is. I'll just try the torch, the UV torch. And one of the really cool things about UV torches is that it gets me to talk about, or it gives me the opportunity to talk about my superpower. So I've talked about it before on the podcast. I was born with cataracts, and as a baby in the early 70s, they could remove the cataracts, but they couldn't put in an artificial lens, and they had to remove the whole lens from my eye. So nowadays, if somebody has cataracts, even a baby that's born with cataracts, they'll remove the cataracts in the lens and they'll put in an artificial lens. But the technology just didn't exist when I was little, so I don't have any lenses in my eyes, and our lenses in our eyes filter out UV. So I don't filter out UV, and so for that reason I can see some ultraviolet light. So when using an ultraviolet torch, shining it on flowers, for example, I get a kind of bee's eye view of the flowers. I can see some of the markings on the flowers that a bee or an insect can see. Ghost hunters use UV light because, again, they say that some energies or spirits or ghosts show up in UV light. They sparkle. However, I would say that lots of things sparkle in UV light, so you have to be quite cautious when using it. And I'm not really seeing anything that's glowing. Well, to Aggie or any other spirits or energies or ghosts that have been with us tonight, we will be leaving now, and we will leave you in peace. And we hope that you are happy and peaceful. And thank you for allowing us to come here and mess around with gadgets and try and contact you. Any observations from anyone?
No, I can only hear the noises from downstairs, but it's been absolutely silent up here.
Yeah.
Nothing at all I could detect.
Anything from anyone else? No. Next, we moved on to the attic, up a little set of creaking stairs from the café. It's now the gym office, but was previously a storeroom. So I'm going to, first of all, have a look through the thermal camera before we do some sort of quiet observations. But yeah, there's a couple of hot spots in the corner where that light's flashing, but there's a real cold spot. I can actually see, it looks like the beams in the ceiling. Oh, it keeps flashing the camera from cool to warm. There doesn't seem to be anything that is particularly sort of leaping out to say that's really a cold spot, apart from in the corner over there is definitely something that is extremely cold. It's telling me though that it's about 14 degrees, 10 degrees, 9 degrees, 8 degrees, 7. It's about 7 degrees. Whilst around it, everything's about 15 or 14. So there is definitely something over there that is extremely cold. At least 2 of the witnesses I spoke to said that they found this attic space particularly frightening. They didn't like being up here. They always felt that there was someone up here watching them, and they felt very uncomfortable in this space. Now, the space strikes me when I've come up here to have meetings with Sarah or chat to Aidan actually seems quite cosy for an attic space. But those were the stories that people up here felt very uncomfortable. They felt like they were never alone when they were in the attic, and they would avoid coming up here. But there wasn't any other activity in particular that was reported. So I'm just going to try the EMF reader to see if we pick up anything where we're sort of currently sitting. I wouldn't have expected... Oh! Okay, so that's both electric field and a slight magnetic field. But it seems to be where the fire extinguishers are. And there's a vacuum cleaner. There's that whole corner. And there doesn't seem to be anything else. Oh! Well, that's strange. That again, we've got an electric magnetic field. It's more electric than magnetic. And it seems to be sort of above us towards the ceiling, but it's not where the lights are. That's so strange. It's like it's above my head. And in that corner. And then it stops. It's showing like it's going up to sort of 50 or 60, and then the magnetic bit's going up to sort of 10, I think. I don't really understand what that means for a measurement. And now it's just not switching off. There you go. So I just switched it off and it seemed to... We'll try it again. Now, my understanding about ghost hunters using these is that there's two reasons. If you're a sceptic, high amounts of an electric field, which can come off any kind of electrical equipment, even things like light switches can set it off, but any sort of electrical equipment will have like an electric field around it. If you have very high fields, which sometimes can happen if electrics are malfunctioning, or if you've got a lot concentrated in a particular area, that can actually have an effect on people. They can feel slightly unnerved, but they have to be very high. So as a sceptic, you could measure that and you could say, okay, there's a lot of equipment in this room that's setting it off. This might be why people are feeling as if there's a presence in here or feeling uncomfortable. If you are team believer, many believe that spirits or energies or ghosts kind of generate those kinds of electromagnetic fields. I think maybe it got itself just stuck and it was like everywhere. I'm just going to try the UV torch. So I think one thing we can say is that, the walls are quite clean. I can't see lots of fluorescing sort of blood stains or other bodily fluids, which is really reassuring. So there's
milk slightly.
The milk. Is that what it is? It's a bottle of milk.
So, yeah.
So that's what the cold spot was. It was a bottle of milk.
Mystery solved.
Mystery solved. And that's the whole point of ghost hunting. That is the whole point of ghost hunting. So it was a bottle of milk, but I'm not seeing anything that looks particularly ghostly or unusual in this light. So the final part of trying this ghost hunt really is this sort of observation part. I mean, obviously we've been observing all the time with the different equipment, but this is when I'll invite Aggie or any spirits, energies, ghosts that are here in the attic with us, that if they are able to... Did anybody just hear that click?
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't just me then. Right behind me it was just like real like almost someone clicking their fingers. Okay, if anyone here, anything here wants to give us a sign, or just let us know that you're here, we're just going to sit quietly and we're going to listen. And I may then ask some questions as well, but for a little while we're just going to listen. And if you want to make contact in any way that's safe and friendly, then we're here. This is when you hear every single tiny creak in your own body. I have a question. If the spirit or energy or ghost that the people of Biggleswade have been calling Aggie, if you are here, are you able to give us a sign to let us know that you are happy? Because we think that you're happier now here in this building than you were when it was the Poundstretcher. Any sign, a knock, a click. We've got some bells that you could move. You could come past one of us. Any sign. Are you unhappy here? If you aren't Aggie and you're someone else, you don't understand what we mean when we say Aggie, can you give us a sign? We will be leaving you in peace pretty soon. How have you found that so far? Did you sense anything, feel anything, hear anything?
No, I've got to be honest, I couldn't feel anything unusual at all. It's just a bit chilly up here, as I said earlier, but no, I've been listening out very carefully for any little subtle noises. I couldn't really detect anything apart from the traffic outside.
Yeah. What about Lucy and Liv? Did either of you notice anything?
I don't think so.
I haven't heard anything, but I feel weird up here.
I feel weirder.
When you said that thing about the electromagnetic fields can make you feel odd, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Because even when I came up here to have a look on my own, I was like, it's just something odd about with the floor and the ceiling.
Yeah.
There's just something odd.
And the green light as well just gives it like a...
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
I don't feel like there's anything here, but there's something odd.
And I think it probably is just that it's a strangely shaped room, and it's, like you say, it's all a little bit uneven. And the only thing that was odd for me was that when I heard that click, because it actually sounded like somebody clicking right by my ear. So that's why I asked if anybody else heard it, and Paul said he heard it, so we'll have to see whether it comes out on the recording. Listening back to the audio file, none of us could hear the click that Paul and I did whilst we were in the attic at the time of recording. Liv thought it might have been her fiddling with the camera, but we couldn't hear the noise again to try and work it out. It is so strange. There's nothing there on the sound file. but I definitely heard it. I almost felt it, like someone had clicked their fingers next to my right ear. Paul heard it too, but it just isn't showing up on the recording. I left my field recorder running in the attic while we went ahead with the next bit of the ghost hunt. So we'll come back to that and I'll let you know whether the field recorder picked anything up. Before we descended into the cellar for our final ghost hunt of the night, we walked through the gym and reception to meet Sarah, the gym manager. Since you've been here, have you experienced anything that was just a bit out of the ordinary?
Only just a couple of things, nothing too exciting for you. So obviously we've got the studio space at the back of the cafe, which is quite a long, narrow building, as it was the old Poundstretchers. And we have boxing bags that hang, I think there's 8 boxing bags, 4 each side. And on many occasions I've walked through the studio and the bags are just swinging when there is nobody in there. So it could be a wind, it could be a breeze, we don't know, but they are often just swinging every now and then as you walk through. And maybe not all of them, it can just be like a random one, so it's not like a wind coming through. Some of them are totally still, and then you'd have the odd one that's just swinging from side to side. And then much more recently, actually, since we have spoken, I have been in the studio and I've felt the presence of somebody walking in as I've been mending a piece of gym equipment, just as if someone's walked into the studio. So I've looked up and there's no one there, and it happened, I would imagine, in that short period I was there 6 times. I kept just looking, thinking, God, who's that? Oh, there's no one there.
And other things that members of staff or visitors have told you about?
Yes, lots of things.
Can you tell us some of them?
Yeah, definitely. The cafe staff have all experienced coming in the morning to open, and the coffee machine will have dispensed its coffee into a little pyramid of coffee, and the cups have come off of the coffee machine and are laying on the floor. And we have had an incident where a knife has gone missing when it was just literally on the side. They turned their head and it had gone again, which was very bizarre. The toilet light comes on a lot on its own. That's on a sensor. So,
and that one's quite interesting because when it was the Poundstretcher, it was the men's toilets in the Poundstretcher where the lights would go off and on all the time, and yet there weren't any men working in the shop at the time.
Yes.
So it's quite interesting. There's some continuation of some of the activity.
Yeah, definitely. We've had a coach who's been training in the studio all alone, and someone's tapped them on the shoulder, which spooked them a little bit.
And how do you and the staff kind of react when these things happen?
We aren't worried or feel threatened or anything, and I am quite sceptical, but I truly believe, if she is here, Aggie as that we call her, that she actually quite likes what we've done to the cafe and the gym, and likes the hustle and bustle and listening to the people in the coffee shop. So yeah, obviously I've heard the Poundstretcher tales, which sounds quite terrifying. I work in the attic and I've never felt like threatened or uncomfortable or anything, so I think if she is up there, she's just probably sitting next to me chatting away to me.
That's quite a nice thought. I see you've got CCTV in the coffee shop, and I'm guessing in the gym as well. I know that when it was the Haunted Poundstretcher, there were some unexplained things that appeared on their CCTV, but I've never actually found out what it was. Have you ever had any, I don't know, anomalies as such on your CCTV?
Yes, quite regularly.
Really?
Yeah. Obviously, it's on reception, so I've spent quite a lot of time sitting on reception, and I'll obviously be watching what's happening in the gym and the cafe, and I'll often see what I believe are orbs from what I've read and seen just floating past the screen very regularly.
Wow. And you say orbs, so like little flecks of light, little balls of light moving around.
Yeah, I mean, could it be dust? Who knows? It's just one of those things, isn't it?
And have you seen any tonight?
Yes.
And where did you see them tonight?
Right where you're sitting. So the camera we've got a few cameras in the cafe, but one of them focuses right on this area. Yeah, I've been keeping an eye, and every time I look, I see some little fleck come past the screen, and I smile.
Sarah also pointed out gym employee Jordan, who also had a story to tell us. So I had a quick chat with him too.
About 6 a.m. when opening up, the cafe door will be open, and you can kind of see through a glass pane into the cafe. And as I've kind of turned on the lights and opened up the studio, I just see like a dark figure go past that kind of glass pane.
Is it a large figure, a small figure?
Yeah, probably a large figure.
And could you see any features on it at all?
No. It's just like a head of hair, essentially.
Oh, wow.
Didn't really investigate it because I didn't really want to know about it.
So you didn't think it was a burglar or anything?
No. Just, like that movement that it does is kind of just like nice and fluid across the pane of glass.
Kind of gliding?
Yeah, gliding, yeah, that's a perfect word.
If somebody asked you, do you believe in ghosts or are you a skeptic? Where do you think you would be on that scale?
I defo believe it.
Yeah.
I don't welcome it.
And then it was time to start our final ghost hunt. So, are we going to go into the cellar?
Let's do it. My staff don't like it down here, and it doesn't help because the lights are on timer. So if you're down the back, the lights go off, and then you have to fight your way out to go to the sensor. So hang on, Natalie. Let me turn the lights on first.
Oh, okay.
Because they come on.
Sensor. Yeah, there we go.
That's one of the tunnels there. You can see it behind that shelf unit. That's
it went into the bank.
That's the bank next door. And then there's one behind that black shelf unit over there as well in the corner. And that obviously went off under the town. There is something written on the... Is it that one there? It says good luck.
Oh.
I think. Let me run and have a look. I'm guessing it was left by the Poundstretcher staff.
Oh, gosh.
Honestly.
Yeah, they really didn't like it down here.
It says good luck, you'll need it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to describe what the cellar's like, it's got a very low ceiling. There are quite large lights in here, so it's quite light at the minute. But if we stay still, they're going to go off. And at the minute, there's a lot of stuff in here that's being stored because there's just been a big refurbishment of the coffee shop. So we're kind of crammed in, but we are going to try to hold our ghost hunt down here while it's quiet, while there's no activity in the gym above us. And it is currently midnight. We are right in the middle of the witching hour. I just have to say, one of the strange things about being down here is that there is a punch bag in the shape of a man, basically made up of lots of other punch bags. And it's right in my sort of eye line in the dark. There's also something that I can see that looks like a figure, but I do not believe it is a figure. I think it's just something in the cellar, some stuff that's being stored. So first of all, just going to quietly observe. We have got a fan that's whirring because obviously they've got fridges and freezers and things down here storing stuff. But other than that, just going to listen to the surroundings and just kind of get used to being in the cellar. And the lights went out. I'm going to try the heat camera first of all. Oh yeah, it's a lot cooler in here. Although the temperature changes. So it says it's about 17 degrees. I can see Liv there. She's warm. So over in that corner is a lot cooler. But it's still about 15, 16. Hopefully we'll find another bottle of milk. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be any, particular cold spots. Ooh, that looked like a person. It's gone. I'm being serious. There was something then that lit up and it looked like a head. But there's nothing there. That's the pillar. Okay, so I'm going up and down that brick pillar. And honestly, next to the brick pillar, a very small round hotspot appeared, red and white, and it looked like a head. That was really weird, but it's not come back, and it's probably just an anomaly on the camera. It sometimes takes a little while for it to sort of calibrate. Oh, there it is again. Okay, it's whatever that is that's hanging up in the doorway where we came down the stairs. Yeah, those are the stairs. It's something on those stairs that keeps... But it's not there now, showing that it's hot. That's so weird. It's showing now that it's really cold. Okay, so that's a bit unusual. But I'm not really sure what that really kind of signifies. We can go and have a look on the stairs and see what it is. I'll try my UV torch. I'm not expecting it to sort of show anything in particular. There's that graffiti. Yeah, you can see the graffiti. So, yes, so it was that brick. So that means that if what I saw, right, was a small head or person, it was something that was about that height, and it was about there. So what, about 4 foot? And then I thought I saw the same thing on the stairs over there, moving up the stairs. And there's something on the stairs that's kind of glowing that also was that showed up. I can see the thing glowing, so when we get nearer, we'll find out what it is. So first of all, I will say thank you to the spirits and energies that have been with us today, and thank you for those that have been protecting us down here in the cellar. Thank you. Let's see if I can get the light to come back on. Did anybody experience anything, hear anything, feel anything while we were doing that?
No, the temperature was consistent. It just felt the same. Couldn't hear anything except just silence, because it got very, very quiet down here, didn't it?
It did.
No, absolutely nothing that I could say would be out of the ordinary.
What about Lucy and Liv? Anything for you?
I mean, it was definitely a lot creepier than upstairs. I definitely felt, I don't know, there was something about the room. I don't know if it was anyone or anything, but there was something weird. It was a lot darker as well, because I called the lights from the street, so it's a lot darker.
Yeah, I do not like it down here.
I'm not a fan.
No.
But nothing specific.
No. I didn't hear anything this time. I didn't enjoy being down here as much. It doesn't feel cosy in this cellar, which is kind of what you'd expect in a cellar. I did get that feeling sometimes that, I was looking around a lot to make sure, I kept thinking, have I just glimpsed something? It was odd what came up on the thermal imaging camera, because, twice, in fact 3 times, I got a glimpse of like a hot spot that actually looked like a head. When I was showing you looking at through the thermal imaging camera at your heads, they're kind of red with a bit of white, and usually you can see like a sort of nose and eyes and features. I didn't see features so much, but I saw like a red blob in that sort of shape of a head with bits of white on it, but there wasn't a body to it. And then I saw it was here really close to us by the brick pillar, and you can see the bricks on this camera. But then it had moved over to the stairs, and it went up the stairs. So for a bit I thought there was actually something on the stairs that was causing it, that then went very cold, but I don't think there was. So it could just be a glitch in the camera, but it was quite odd, and it was quite, like I say, it was about 4 foot off the ground, and it was, about the size of a child's head. So we're by the stairs, and this pile of crates here is what I thought looked like a person. But when you see the shape of the crates, it's like, why in the dark would, my brain make this jumble into a person? But, that's how pareidolia works. So where we turn shapes into patterns, into things that our brains recognise. So rather than a pile of crates, it actually becomes a person in a cloak, which was kind of what I thought. Honestly, there must be a coat hanging up here when we walk towards it. Also, just to check out the stairs, I don't see anything on the stairs that would have caused that sort of round hot blob that I saw. And here comes the fan again. So yeah, probably our cue to go. As we left the cellar and headed back upstairs to our base in the gym cafe, Sarah, the gym manager, came and grabbed me.
It's like it's snowing, and I've never seen anything like it. So obviously I'm sitting in reception, and we've got the CCTV, and I've never witnessed anything on the CCTV like this. It was literally like it was snowing. Just I want to say orbs, but I don't know what it was.
Now, it wouldn't be an episode of Weird in the Wade without some fascinating social history, and I'm not going to disappoint you on the 2nd anniversary episode. But a warning, this aspect of history is quite distressing. I've been searching the records and old newspapers to find any kind of link between the old Poundstretcher buildings and the haunting. We know that in the last 200 years, the various associated buildings on the site have housed many things, from a music school, a grocer's, a wine and spirits shop, a printworks, a carpenter's, a furniture shop, and then a morgue, before it became the Poundstretchers and now gym. The morgue was a fairly recent development in the late 20th century, so it can't be the genesis of the Aggie stories. She had already been witnessed long before the morgue was there. If we for a moment accept and entertain the explanation that Aggie is the spirit of a ghost of a young girl who died, then maybe some research into deaths could shed some light on the haunting or the belief in it. This is a phenomena-led ghost story, but why did the backstory of Aggie, the girl who died in a fire, possibly the Great Fire of Biggleswade, grow up around the haunting? We know it's highly unlikely that Aggie died in the Great Fire of 1785, but if there's one thing that I've learnt since making Weird in the Wade, it's that there's often a grain, even if it's the tiniest grain, of truth in the stories that coalesce around hauntings. I have not discovered a related death for an Agnes or an Agatha at that location, but I have discovered something else instead. I discovered that between 1863 and 1848, a period of 85 years, at least 14 young women or children, mainly girls, died or were horribly injured in Biggleswade after being caught alight by fire. The youngest was a 3-year-old boy, the oldest a 20-year-old woman called Ida. Ida died just metres away from the Poundstretcher building. Ida Burnage, and it's a cruel irony that her family name is Burnage, was born in 1886, the illegitimate daughter of Harriet Burnage. Ida was brought up by her grandparents. Her grandfather was a domestic coachman. They lived in Palace Street in Biggleswade, close to the carriage works. Ida, unlike her mother Harriet, who at the age of 10 was working as a straw platter, had a kinder start in life. She attended school in Biggleswade, and from the age of 14, Ida looked after her grandparents, who by 1906 were living in Churchgate Cottage, also referred to as St Andrew's Cottage, on Shortmead Street. It appears Ida's grandfather had retired. Ida's mother was now married and living in Bedford. Tragedy struck on the 6th of November 1906 when Ida was collecting coal for the fire. She took a candle with her as it was dark in the coal store. It was thought that some lace trimming around her neck caught alight as she stooped to collect the coals. The fire took extremely fast. She ran into the hallway of the cottage, setting the curtains alight. Her grandfather tried to get her onto the ground to put out the flames, but she ran out of the house and onto Shortmead Street. She ran across the road to where Church Street is today. A passing postman took off his coat and smothered the flames, which he described as being well over Ida's head. This frightening ordeal happened just metres away from the Church Street entrance to the old Poundstretcher, now Jones's Gym. The local doctor and parish nurse were called, and they tried their best to treat Ida at home, but she was taken to Bedford Hospital, where she remained unconscious and then passed away on the Sunday. The inquest commended the postman, Edgar Wood, for his quick thinking and bravery. It also noted that Ida had been receiving treatment for seizures before this awful accident occurred. Had she briefly passed out whilst collecting the coals, I wonder? Now, I am not saying that our Aggie is Ida. For one thing, she was 20 when this happened to her, and Aggie has been described as being a child. But why were there so many deaths relating to fire in the 19th to mid-20th century? It was a very real problem, which was discussed widely in the newspapers and even campaigned about. You see, in the 1850s, new types of materials were being developed by the modern looms being deployed in northern factories. These fabrics were light and airy, like muslin. The very fact that they are airy means that the material has pockets of air within it, making it far more flammable. As women and children's clothing in the 19th century was far more elaborate than ours today, and candles were the main source of light in the mid-19th century, accidents were bound to happen. There is one tragic case in Biggleswade in 1863 where a young maid, Edith Bilge, caught herself alight with a candle. This happened in the house of William Hogg. Yes, the William Hogg who was a business partner and relation to Sam Wells, the brewer. The butler of the house tried to put out the flames that were engulfing Edith, but the hoops within her skirts trapped the butler's hand. Hoops and crinolines all increased the flammability of skirts for various reasons. Their wideness made it easier for them to knock into candles. The layers of petticoats increased the material that could catch fire, and putting out burning skirts, which had crinolines or hoops within them, was much, much harder. By the late 19th century, cheap but warm flannelette garments were also causing all kinds of problems because the rough surface of the material, which created the flannel effect, was also highly flammable. Inquest held into the death of children and women who caught alight often carried warnings from the coroner about the dangers of flannelette. The Biggleswade Chronicle carries a number of articles about the risks of wearing this cheap and warm material in 1901. The 19th Century Rational Dress Society make it clear in their mission statement that they are against, and I quote, the introduction of any fashion in dress that either deforms the figure, impedes the movement of the body, or in any way tends to injure the health of the women and girls wearing them. So highly flammable and impractical clothing was on their list of fashions to ban. But it would take many years of campaigning for fashions and materials to change. Sadly, the advent of electricity in homes and less formal and flouncy clothing did not stop the garments that children wore catching fire. The 20th century brought new problems. Synthetic materials like polyester were cheap and popular in nightgowns for women and children. Electric fires and old paraffin heaters could catch synthetic materials alight very easily. And so the tragic deaths and burns injuries of children and women in 90s continued well into the 20th century. I remember my mum being extremely protective about me and my brother going anywhere near any kind of heat source whilst wearing our nightclothes in the 1980s, a legacy of these sad deaths and injuries. So I do wonder if the stories about Aggie the ghost girl dying in a fire and then haunting the old Poundstretcher building links to one or more of those tragic deaths that took place between the mid-19th to mid-20th century. It's not so far-fetched a cause of death as it might have first seemed. And I think we can all be thankful that fashion and fabrics have changed considerably over the last 200 years. So it's the morning after the ghost hunt. A little bit bleary-eyed, didn't get home till 2:30 in the morning, but it's sunny and I'm sitting by the river with Liv and Lucy and we're having a catch-up about what went on last night, how we felt about it, and I've just been able to share with them a sound clip that I got. Whilst we were having a tour of the gym and holding our ghost hunt in the cellar, I left my field recorder in the attic by itself. So this morning I was really curious to see what kind of sounds it had picked up. And as I was looking through the wave formation, which you see when you've recorded audio, I noticed a really unusual piece of sound. And it looked like speech. But I knew there'd been nobody in the attic. So I quickly went to that piece of speech and I had a listen. And I then tried to isolate what sounded like speech. And I'm going to play that clip for you now. I mean, to me, it sounded like, maybe whispering or... I don't know. I'll play it for you again and see if you can hear any words. So, I'm going to do a little experiment with you. What if I said to you that I thought I could hear at the start of that recording, "Get out, get out, go away"? Have a listen again. Of course, I primed you by telling you that I'd heard "get out", but I'm wondering how many of you now could hear that. I would love to know from anybody that's listened if you heard different words, other words, if you could make anything out that you thought was useful. Please do let me know. You can get in touch in all the usual places on social media and at weirdinthewade@gmail.com. I am now going to play for you the sort of original version before I isolated the voice and see if you can try and work out what you think it is now. So when I listened to that again, and all we did to it was amplify it slightly so that we could hear it, I noticed a whirring sound before the sort of whispering voice. And I thought, I've heard that whirring sound before. And I'm afraid to say, I think it's the hand dryer in the toilets in the floor below the attic. So I was a little disappointed when I worked out that it wasn't a spooky voice telling us to get out. I think it was the hand dryer in the toilets. But, if you think differently, then please let me know. As ever, if you have a comment, suggestion, or just want to get in touch, you can email me at weirdinthewade@gmail.com or contact me on social media at weirdinthewade. I want to thank Sarah and all the staff at Jones's Gym and Coffee Shop for giving us access to the building late at night. It was fantastic. Thank you so much. And also I'd like to thank Paul, Liv and Lucy for joining me on my first ghost hunt. I definitely want to do more ghost hunts in the future. Thank you to Dr. Ciarán O'Keefe for his advice about ghost hunting for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to this very special 2-year anniversary episode. At the end of April 2023, when I launched Weird in the Wade, I expected to make a couple of episodes and maybe have a dozen listeners if I was lucky. So whether you've been here since the very beginning or are a brand new listener, thank you so much for joining me on this weird and wonderful exploration of the stranger side of history in Biggleswade, Bedfordshire and beyond. Don't forget to follow Weird in the Wade on social media and visit the blog weirdinthewade.blog. If you'd like to support Weird in the Wade, then one of the best ways to do this is to like and subscribe to the show or to review if your podcast app allows it. It really does help other people find the show. I know we always say that, but it is actually true. If you'd like to support Weird in the Wade further, then we do have a Patreon. Just search Weird in the Wade Patreon. That's Patreon. And members of the Patreon for just £3.50 a month get access to an exclusive episode every month on Patreon. So if you're able to, I'd love to see you over there. Come and join Team Weird and get more exclusive episodes and content from Weird in the Wade. This episode of Weird in the Wade was researched, written and presented by Nat Doig, with sound production from Lucy Dearlove and production support from Liv Woodward. Theme music by Tess Savagir.